All right, so for your quiz tomorrow, the 5-1 to 5-3, you have to know all the different types of variation. Okay, so direct, inverse, joint were the 3 types of variation, and then there can be a combination of any of those. So if it tells you to write and graph each function, don't forget that you do have to write the equation, okay? So you guys are pretty good at finding your value of k. If y varies directly as x, y equals kx is your equation. So you have 30, when x is -6, divide both sides by -6 to get k is -5. But what you should have on the line is your function. Okay, and every direct variation function is what type? Linear. Okay, so when you're graphing, you're going to start at the y-intercept, which is 0, 0. This is -5, so if you go down 5 over 1, notice how this is going by 2's, right? So it would be here, and then you go down another 5 over 1. You could go up 5, and then you would go to the left, up 5, go to the left. Okay, and I'll give you a straight edge tomorrow so you can just connect those points pretty easily. But for inverse variations, oh, and then I was also gonna tell you too, keep in mind if this is negative, if the slope is negative, your line should be going down from left to right. So that's another thing that you can check. If it's an inverse variation, that is a rational function. And any rational function of the form y equals k over x is going to have 2 branches. So we know that it's 5 when the x value is 3, so we're going to multiply both sides by 3. The k value is 15. Again, you are writing this function on your line. So make sure that you don't just write what k equals, that you're writing the equation. Okay, because that's something small that people forget sometimes, is to actually write out the equation. All right, so you don't have a calculator and it's 15 divided by a value. How do you decide what points you're going to plot? Uh-huh. Factors. Yeah. Yep, so factors of 15. So what goes into 15 easily? So I did 3 and 5. Okay, so then when you plug in 3, 15 divided by 3 is 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. But sometimes you need more points than that. Hannah, will you tell us what you did?
I did 7 and a half.
Okay, so if you plug in 7.5, you know you're going to get 2. Okay, and if you cut 15 in half, you get 7.5. The other chart is just going to be the same values, but they're going to be negative. So if you divide 15 by -3, you get -5. Okay, so you have to have your positive branch and your negative branch. Okay, and then you're going to plot your points. So I'm at 2, 7.5, so here's 7, 7.5, 3, I'm at 5, 5, I'm at 3, and then 7.5, I'm at 2. Okay, and then you're connecting these with a curve, like so. If one branch is here, do you guys know where the other branch has to be? Yep, in the quadrant that's across. Do you guys know what quadrant that is? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it's in 1, it'll be in 3. If it's in quadrant 2, it'll be in quadrant 4. Okay, what questions do you guys have for me on these two? Okay, so we're going to connect them with a curve. Okay, the next one are our tables. So determine whether it represents direct variation, inverse variation, or neither. So if it's direct variation, it should fit the form y equals kx. What you want to do is see if the k is constant. So if it's direct variation, if you solve that for k, k would be y divided by x. So all of those would be the same. Okay, if it's a direct variation, this says a direction variation again, sorry. Okay, an inverse variation, so if it's an inverse variation, it would be y equals k over x. So to find k, we would just do x times y and see if those are the same. All right, so then for 3, if it is direct variation, I'm going to do y over x and see if those are constant. So does 2 over 8 equal 3 over 12 equal 4 over 16? All of these reduce to what? 1/4. Okay, so that's your k value, your constant. So this is going to be direct variation. Okay, if they were not the same, then you would go on to inverse. Okay, so for this one, if you were checking to see if it was direct, you get 5 over 3, 15 over 1. Right away, you know 5/3 is not equivalent to 15. So now we can check our inverse. Okay, so I'm going to multiply 3 times 5 should equal 1 times 15, should equal 1/2 times 30 if it's inverse. So yep, these are all going to multiply to be 15, so it is inverse. If those were not equal, then your answer would be neither. All right, now we get some story problems. So when you're doing the story problems, you need to use the variables that are given to you, okay? So we're going to set up the equation. I'm going to get my highlighter. So it says the number of chaperones C needed for the class trip. So C, chaperone C, varies directly as the number of students S. So right away I can set up my equation that C is going to equal K times S. Okay, so those are the variables that you're going to be using. Now, it says C equals 7 when S is 56. So I'm going to plug those in. Divide each side by 56. So this is where you do want to set that up to make sure that you are getting, what's 7 over 56? How many times is 7 going to 56? 8 times, so it's 1/8. You're dividing by 56, don't accidentally put 8. And then when you're setting up your equation, you would have C equals 1/8 S. Okay? Oh, and on your quiz, it'll say write the variation equation. Okay, so if it says write the variation equation, you're going to have this on there. And this says how many chaperones are needed if 104 students go on the trip. So you have to find C when you know that your S value is 104. Okay, so C is going to equal 1/8 times 104. Okay, if you're doing that without a calculator, you can do old school division. That's fine. Or, what do I know is going to go into 104 and 8 right away? 2. So can I just cut them in half pretty quickly? Half of 104 is what? 52. Half of 8 is 4. Even if I don't know if 4 goes into 52 right away, again, don't I know 2 goes into them? And I can do that quickly, right? Because half of 50 is 25, half of 2 is 1, so I know that would be 26. 26 divided by 2 is 13. Okay, so then the number of chaperones needed would be 13. And there you go. All right, for 6, it says the time t required to pick some apples varies directly with the number of bushels of apples to be picked, B, and inversely to the number of people picking apples, P. So this is going to be a combination of two of them. So the time t varies directly with B and inversely to P. Okay, and we know that T is 1.5 hours when B is 4 and P is 3. And we are going to do both where we're writing the combined variation equation. And then we're going to find B given these values. Okay, so T is 1.5 when B is 4 and P is 3. So we're going to be solving for K. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is multiply both sides by 3, or you could multiply by the reciprocal as well. Did some of you multiply by 3/4 right away? Doesn't matter if you do it in 2 steps or 1. And when you think of like 1.5, you can also think of it like money. 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3. 3 plus 1.5 is what? 4.5. Okay, so then I have K times 4. So I want to divide both sides by 4. Now you could, again, do this with long division, but there are a couple of key strategies we talked about with decimals. So because this is 1/2, the 4.5, what's the quickest, best way to do this? Multiply by 2 over 2. Okay, so if you multiply by 2 over 2, 4.5 times 2 is 9, 4 times 2 is 8, 9/8 is going to be your value for K. Let's say it was not 0.5. Let's say it was any other decimal. What would I recommend that you multiply by? 10, because 10 over 10, okay, does what to this decimal? Moves it. So this would move one place, this would move one place, and you'd have a 0. So 45 over 40, okay, you know that 5 goes into both of them. So again, 9 over 8. You see that that can be very quick. Okay, now when you are writing out your equation, I'm okay if you leave it, bless you, as T equals 9/8 B over P. Okay, I'm fine if you leave it like that. You can also think of it as, if you have 9/8 B, because it's like a fraction divided by a fraction, 9/8 times B is 9B over 8. Okay, and then if you're dividing by P, it's like you're multiplying by 1 over P. So you could also write your equation as 9B over 8P like this. Those would be equivalent. Like I said, either one of those is fine. I'm okay if you leave it like that. All right, and but you are going to want to leave it like a fraction, because I know some of you did get the 1.125, and that's going to be more difficult to multiply for the next part. Okay, so we have to find B if T is 1.8 and P is 5. So the first thing we're going to want to do is multiply both sides by 5. What strategy did you guys use to multiply 1.8 times 5? Without your calculator, how'd you guys do it?
5 times 1 is 5.
Okay, yep, 5 times 1 is 5. And then you would do 5 times 0.8, which is 4. You can also think of it like this. 5 times 8 is 40. You'd move the decimal one place back. 5 plus 4 is going to be 9. So then when you have to multiply by the reciprocal, 8 over 9, what's nice about that? Cancels, right? So then you just have 8. So your b value is going to be 8. You could also do 8 times 9, which is 72, and then divide it by 9.